So for someone who talks about D&D for a job, it's weird how little my parents are disappointed in me. It's also weird how little I have seen of Critical Role, which makes it even weirder that I am apparently the world's biggest fan of a game they published and played that nobody talks about. Created by Marisha Ray and Grant Howitt, it's a one-page RPG that anyone can play with no prep or experience and no prior knowledge of the rules. And it's free. It also has fun mechanics around kleptomania and depression and paranoia and cowardice. It's like the Seven Dwarves if they were millennials. But it is also awesome. Message your friends now, tell them to come over tonight to play an RPG, even if they've never played before. You're gonna play a familiar problem. This video is gonna teach you how and why it's awesome and why understanding it can make any game better. The concept! So this is a game where everyone is playing a small magical creature that's been summoned by a spellcaster. A familiar, if you will. You and some furry friends set out on an adventure and chaos ensues. This is a far more improvised, roleplay focused approach to gaming than traditional D&D. In my experience, that means it's a lot funnier, it's a lot more chaotic, and anything can happen. And I mean it. When people say anything can happen in D&D, they mean anything can happen as long as you abide by the 1,000 pages of rules and sage advice. No, in this game, anything can happen. And also, the GM doesn't have to prep or plan or have any maps or minis or anything. There is no stress. Literally, all you need is a D12, a D10, and a D6. So let's talk about how to actually play. And last stop on the tour, my room. Pretty nice. Wow, this is horrible. What? The walls are completely bare. It looks like a serial killer lives here. That's crazy. I'm not a serial killer. Why did you say it like that? You are right though. Having some cool art would throw off suspicion. Suspicion of what? Of being a murderer, which I am not. I need to get some disc plates. Disc plates are awesome metal posters which hold their vibrancy way better than flimsy paper, with over 2 million designs to grab, from D&D to video games to movies, music, and more. They're effortless to install with a magnet mounting system, it's tool-free, safe for your walls, and super quick. Looking for Christmas gifts? Forget about it! Disc plates arrive gift-ready and ship within 5 business days. And you can use my code at checkout to get up to 36% off your order. That's over a 1/3 discount as part of their Christmas campaign. Remember to use my code at checkout or just follow the link below to get your savings. Thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Character creation! So in this game, you make a character by rolling 1d12, and the result you get gives you the type of familiar that you are, although you can just choose if you prefer. I like how the octopus is specified to be on land. Don't worry, you will not instantly die if you roll a 6. Functionally, these species are going to have different limits and advantages based on your physiology. Ravens will be able to fly, octopuses can swim, etc. However, every familiar also gets unique bonuses to their attributes, and there are 4 attributes in the game: fierce, sly, quick, and clever. Clever is for talking to people and understanding them. It's like a mix of persuasion and all the intelligence skills from D&D. Fierce is for biting, scratching, scaring, and making loud noises. It's like a mix of your attack rolls and intimidation. Sly is for hiding, lying, sneaking, disguising, and tricking. It's basically a mix of deception and dexterity skills. And quick is climbing, dodging, outrunning, and spotting. Movement plus perception, basically. Each familiar also has its own unique break, but we'll get to that in the game mechanics section. It is very funny. Everyone also gets access to 3 spells. You only get 3, and you can only cast each one once per session. You roll a d12 3 times to find the spells you can cast. Butterfingers forces a target to drop whatever they're holding. Change form lets you take on the appearance and stats of another familiar permanently. You just straight up change character. Conjure Slick makes a patch of slippery oil. Door magic opens, closes, locks, or unlocks a door. This is low-key, kind of broken. Ignite Fire creates a sizable fire. Limited invisibility turns you invisible as long as you don't move. Mist creates an area of obscuring fog, basically fog cloud from D&D, and is also low-key broken. Soak creates a load of water, and Speak with Objects lets you speak to an object. You just haven't done roleplay if you've never seen an octopus arguing with a sentient marital aid. Summon Hole creates a hole about 1 foot across, and Summon Horse summons a horse. This one is probably the best spell in the game. Finally, Wizard Digits gives you light telekinesis to knock something over or steal something. The point of these spells isn't really to give you unimaginable power over the fabric of reality, it's to facilitate shenanigans. This is a low power toolkit, which means creativity in how you use them will be king on your mission. So what is your mission? Gameplay! Every game of A Familiar Problem has a randomized mission and location. You roll on these tables to find out what you're doing. You could be helping an adventurer find love in a spooky prison, or sabotaging an evil villain's scheme in an ancient tower. If you've ever seen those improv shows where people yell out motivations and locations and the actors have to make a scene, this is basically that. When you want to attempt something that has a chance of failure in the game, you roll 1d10. You then add on any modifiers your species might give you to that type of check, and that is your result. An octopus, for example, gets +3 to their clever rolls, and the GM decides the difficulty of the check just like they do in D&D. The harder the thing you are trying to do is, the higher you will need to roll. If you roll higher than the difficulty check, you succeed, but failure is a lot more interesting. Anytime you fail a dangerous task, you get 1 stress. Stress is cumulative, and if you ever roll a die as part of an action and get a result that is lower than or equal to your current stress level, you lose it. This is your break. Each species has a different break, and you can kind of use this as a prompt to go wild with your roleplay. Rats have an episode of kleptomania, lizards have cowardice, frogs have depression, etc. Your familiar buddies can try to calm you down, but doubtless breaking will cause a big scene that will in turn dramatically alter the course of the adventure. Once you've been calmed down, your stress resets to 0, or you don't calm down and you just dip out of the material plane. This rarely happens unless you want it to, but it's this game's version of dying. But it doesn't come with the trauma of seeing an adorable little weasel get murdered, so it is way better. This also means you'll take a point of stress when you fail a dodge check. You don't have AC in this game, you roll to avoid enemies' attacks, and you roll fierce to attack them. In that way, stress is kind of like health. What's the point? A Familiar Problem is free, easy to understand, and requires no prep from anyone. Essentially, it makes gaming simple, but it isn't unique in that aspect. There are thousands of free one-page RPGs that do this. A Familiar Problem has a couple of unique advantages as well. One, this is a fantastic game to slot inside an existing D&D or Pathfinder game. If someone is missing a session, or you need a break or a palate cleanser from a really intense game, you can roll this up for a side adventure. Have your familiars go on their own little mission while the main characters have a long rest. The results of this heavily improv game can impact the direction of your main story. I don't know if this is really a problem with D&D, but one thing it definitely does is make death very punishing. You are not going to mess around too much if there's a chance that your beloved main character can die forever. However, you can go hog wild as an octopus wielding 8 knives who just vanishes into the Feywild if crap hits the fan. 2. Because of its association with Critical Role and its simplicity, you can trick your stupid, cowardly friends into playing. D&D is complicated to learn and kind of boring to learn as well. It also comes with a tacit commitment to playing weekly for months or even years. A Familiar Problem doesn't do that. There's no commitment, it's a one-off game, no worries. You essentially bait your idiot friends like they're entering a mousetrap with a picture of Marisha Ray, where the end result is a crippling dice addiction and commitment to a 9-year-long D&D campaign. Or you could just play with your friends because you like them, I guess. 3. The lack of hard mechanics can make it a lot easier to bring people out of their shell. In D&D, Pathfinder, DC-20, and Daggerheart, you can get lost in the mechanics. In those games, everything is super explained and detailed, but it ain't like that here. There's less to get distracted by, and less to hide behind. You also have to take more initiative in what your spells, attacks, and actions actually do, because it's not all laid out for you. You have more power, weirdly. smoothly. This is actually very freeing and really fun. I run my personal games of D&D just like this. We go way beyond what is on the actual page. Building the skills and the confidence and the relationships to do that can come from games like this. 4, you can just throw this down anytime. You got some friends over, you have pizza, you decide you want a game, bing bang boom, roll 4 dice and you're ready to play. And with all that out of the way, here's the plot twist. A Familiar Problem isn't even my favorite one-page RPG. It's awesome, but right now my personal favorite is We're Wolves by Rob Hartley. We're Wolves isn't free though. It's for sale with all proceeds going to Auckland Puppy Rescue. A Familiar Problem is free, so there's literally no reason not to grab it. But honestly, most of the advantages of this system apply to a bunch of one-page RPGs too. It's less about the mechanics, and it's a lot more about the free improv and the laughter. Critical Role played A Familiar Problem on their channel, and I played We're Wolves on Twitch with Rob recently. I'll link both of those live plays down below. I'll also link the free rules for A Familiar Problem so you can play it today. And while we're speaking about free stuff, you can grab an epic expansion pack to D&D from my Patreon, also linked below. You can support this channel on there or via YouTube memberships as well, which makes videos like this possible in the wild, unpredictable world of YouTube ad revenue. Also remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.